Well, Celine Song's second movie has finally hit the screens, and I'll admit I had high hopes for this one. Her Academy Award nominated debut in 2023, Past Lives, was a thoughtful, emotionally rich drama with the kind of that we rarely see these days. But her sophomore effort, let's just say it leaves a lot to be desired. In fact, it's a terrible movie by all accounts. But what exactly makes this title such a letdown? Let's find out. I'm Pedro from Vinyl and Celluloid, and this is my review of Materialists. Now, I've often been accused of having a bias, of passing judgment on any movie that carries the A24 banner. And yes, I'm not gonna hide it, I kinda do. But there are plenty of titles from the decade-old distributor that I've genuinely enjoyed. And you can find the reviews of those movies either on this channel or on my Letterboxd page. Still, liking Materialists was a difficult task. The film doubles down by starring none other than Pedro Pascal, you know, Hollywood's Mr. Nice Guy, and the second coming of Tom Hanks himself. Not a fan, to say the least. But I swear, I went in with an open mind and an open heart. After all, the premise sounded promising. A modern anti-rom-com, a movie that dares to wade into the minefield of contemporary dating. I mean, on paper, it was too good to screw up. And with Past Lives, Celine Song had already proven that she had the sensitivity and creative precision to explore the murky grayish terrain of love in the 2020s. So yeah, I was hopeful. I had no reason not to be. But things derailed faster than you can say Materialists assemble. What we get with this movie is an aimless, muddled, borderline incoherent piece of drivel that doesn't just fail to say anything meaningful, it actually has no idea what it even wants to try tackling. Song wants to be deep, maybe even satirical, but instead ends up sounding like the result of feeding a dating app's terms and conditions into a screenwriting program. And rather than commit to either romance or satire, the whole thing can be summed up by a quote from a movie that was made back when, get this, comedies were actually funny.
Stew is joke. Joke is soft white rice in lukewarm water. It has no taste.
But before I get ahead of myself, let me recap what the movie is about. Lucy, played by Dakota Johnson, is a former actress turned high-end matchmaker. Professionally, she has a successful track record, but personally, she plays by a different set of rules. Well, just one rule really, she only dates wealthy men. Romance is business to her. At a wedding of one of her clients, she meets Harry, played by Pedro Pascal, a rich financier, but tries to make him a client instead of a boyfriend. He is determined to show Lucy that he is genuinely interested in her and tries to change her way. Meanwhile, her broke ex, John, played by Chris Evans, shows up catering that wedding and reveals he still has feelings for her. Love triangle ensues. So this is the setup that drives the narrative forward, or at least tries to. The problem is, Song treats all of this with the emotional depth of a grocery store sample. Indeed, this movie plays like cho, light, processed, and designed to go down easy. Something you can serve to any crowd, any audience, without much resistance. Despite being a millennial myself, I'm not at all surprised that the majority of millennials and Gen Zs are eating this up. There's a point when the film tries to be a bit more ambitious. But just like using any dating app, watching an A24 movie comes with the implicit risk of being catfish. And Materialists does exactly that, but without the charm, surprise, or, let's be honest, anything remotely good. And to back this up, here are 4 reasons why this is one entry you definitely won't want to waste your time on. First and foremost, there's the acting. His Holiness Mr. Pascal, Chris Evans, and Dakota Johnson may be suitable for big blockbusters with strong IPs behind them, but this is just far out of their league. The leading trio is as charmless and soulless as it gets. I mean, watching them perform makes you yearn for the good old days when the likes of Tia Zadora and Priscilla Presley starred in movies. Song's sophomore effort delivers a trifecta of robotic performances with zero likability. Dakota Johnson sadly takes after her mother on the acting front, proving to have zero chemistry with either the stereotypical rich guy or the stock character poor guy. It's a performance that registers somewhere between awkward dental procedure and hostage situation. And I think we may have finally found the perfect antidote, the kryptonite, if you will, to Mr. Pascal's seemingly never-ending charm, Miss Johnson. Fun fact, the film even gives her a line where her character admits she can't act. Cruelly accurate. Then there's Chris Evans desperately trying to convince us he's a struggling working-class actor. Certainly a take that strains credibility. The man couldn't look financially insecure if you dressed him in a potato sack and filmed him at the food bank. But I do have to say he's decent in this one. The movie's main problem is its third lead. Pascal's casting as a private equity executive had me laughing out loud. No way this Burt Reynolds mustache sporting modern-day Harold Flynn would pass for a managing director of anything. In fact, the whole thing was distracting, and it reminded me of when Chris Christopherson wanted to keep his facial hair for 1981's Rollover, where he played a New York banker. Director Alan J. Pakula told him he could keep the beard only if he found one real Wall Street banker who had one. Christopherson couldn't, so he had to shave. It shows how little Hollywood has learned in over 40 years, or at least forgotten what it have learned. But back to the acting. These wooden personas might have worked perfectly in a truly cynical take on modern romance. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and that leads perfectly to my second complaint about Materialists, the script. Every single scene drags on for what feels like a lifetime. Every single moment seems never-ending, with characters talking and talking and talking, but not saying anything meaningful. Did we really need 5 minutes of dialogue about that laughable knee surgery? I think not. All of this keeps testing our patience, and the result? A room full of uninvested viewers silently praying for it to end, whilst watching the clock like it's the most compelling character in the movie. It's actually the only recent release where I wouldn't judge anyone in the screening for grabbing their phone and checking either emails, messages, or social media. Because even the most annoying spam email is far better than anything we see in Materialists. The dialogue, as you might have guessed, was nothing to write home about either. Aimless and borderline ridiculous, it's simply a collection of lines including my all-time favorite, when Chris Evans' character says to Dakota Johnson's Lucy, "You're so hard on yourself. You don't work at Shell or McKinsey. It's just stating it's not that serious." Whomst McKinsey oil and gas partner wrote this script, I ask? And this is just one of many lines that feel out of place. Because as it turns out, you need more than a Woody Allen-esque title font and promotional material that evoke the star-studded romantic comedies of the late 1980s to make a solid movie. Who knew? Also, when did smoking become cool again? When did this start? I really don't know, but if this is going to become a trend, maybe studios should invest in someone who teaches actors how to actually hold a cigarette. Moving on with this rant, we get to the third complaint I have about this movie. As a product of both the acting and the script, Materialists is all surface and no substance. If you want to create a successful anti-rom-com, you need to pick a tone, an angle, and give audiences something to stay invested in. Anyone dating these days already knows the message this movie tries to convey. People are entitled, self-centered, and shallow. Social media and access to a virtually endless dating pool makes it easy to discard people rather than to solve existing problems. So what? What is this movie trying to accomplish? Where's the aha, insightful moment? Because we, the audience, already know this. Is the movie trying to tell us that algorithms are flawed, but so are humans? Not really. Is it criticizing us for anchoring value to the wrong things and putting way too much weight on superficial aspects of relationships? A bit, but not much. The reason why I'm having a tough time finding an answer to my own question is because the movie really doesn't know what it's trying to express. After all, a title about a dating expert discovering that their own values are messed up, and so is the service they're providing, could actually be fun. I know that because I watched one 20 years ago. It was called Hitch. It starred the pre-slap Will Smith. It was fun, it had a message, and everybody loved it. And that's the most infuriating thing. This movie could have been made 20 or 40 years ago with a solid cast and been a hit comedy with reflective overtones. Heck, this is the kind of Sunday afternoon movies that Nora Ephron, Nancy Myers, and James Brooke used to make 30 odd years ago. And all of them have far more to show than this title. Because when you think about it, Celine Song's involvement begged for something far deeper. Instead, we get a film that parks the most interesting aspect of its story, Lucy's matchmaking job, to cram in a subplot that not only feels out of place, but is handled with appalling lack of sensitivity. When all is said and done, this cinematic torture is undeniably subpar and falls far short of the auteur's vision and her proven capabilities. And finally, my fourth and final complaint. Materialists is just another symptom of the broader malaise plaguing modern American entertainment. The concept of subtlety has been completely abandoned, eroding any space for genuine reflection or meaningful insight. The idea of entertainment, of simply telling a good story or making people feel something without moral homework, has all but disappeared. Every film now feels compelled to be about something. Movies have taken a higher role, a moralistic duty to right the world's wrongs. Mighty tall order, if you ask me. But if a title like Materialists is supposed to fix the so-called loneliness epidemic and reset the principles that guide dating whilst calling out all the participants, it really should have something to say. And as it became painfully obvious, this one doesn't. Neither do most of the movies that really try too hard to be something that they're not. After all, you look at the modern-day release roster, and you find a bunch of titles that really try to dig too deep to be about something. Because these days, a horror movie must root all evil in trauma. A romantic comedy must dissect the toxicity of modern relationships, and so on and so endlessly forth. We know that comedy as a genre has long since flatlined, and Song's second film seems determined to remind us of that at every painful step. This cultural purge is now evident even to the casual moviegoer. We are no longer allowed to laugh or enjoy the things that once made past titles great. The film and its shoehorned subplot are just another manifestation of an industry that has completely drifted away from its audience. All we're left with are pseudo-moralist messes, entirely out of touch with the current times. Celine Song has certainly failed with this one. It seems like she sold her soul to the devil to obtain the success of past lives, and with Materialists, the devil has just come around to collect. As it stands, her second outing has nothing to offer but to be used as a reference in future LinkedIn posts penned by dating app founders. A step down from past lives, a wasted opportunity for Song, and a waste of time for me.